Warm greetings. Thank you for lending an ear to The Voice of the Times for Thursday, January 14, 2021. For today's editorial, ADB study finds school closures can do more harm than good. Although largely accepted sympathetically by the public due to its obvious good intentions and the high trust placed in President Duterte, the blanket ban on face-to-face classes until vaccinations have been carried out on a large scale has had results that are problematic at best. A recent detailed study by the Asian Development Bank, or the ADB, has cast further serious doubt on the wisdom of maintaining the policy, finding that not only will it not have a significant effect in slowing the COVID-19 pandemic, but it also very likely will have longer-term negative economic and public health consequences. The ADB study's results, published in a brief at the end of last month, reach a number of startling conclusions. School closures do not work better than other control measures to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Analysis of the policy choices involved with an epidemiological model applied to the case of the Philippines finds that school closure is of limited effectiveness compared with alternative COVID-19 control measures, the report stated. School closures have been significant short-term negative economic impacts due to job losses in the education sector and reduced working hours for parents needing to care for children undergoing home learning. The present value costs of face-to-face closure are estimated to be very high at 1.9 trillion pesos for the 2020-2021 school year, equivalent to over 10% of GDP. In a cost-benefit framework that generously values morbidity and mortality, costs are about 70 times higher than COVID-19 control benefits, even when adverse effects on non-COVID-19 health outcomes are not considered, the report explained. In plainer language, what this means is that for every 1 peso in costs due to the pandemic, healthcare costs and lost productivity, that school closures save the country's economy. The closures result in about 70 pesos of other costs. This is obviously a very poor rate of return no matter what the context. A business that spends 70 pesos for every peso it earns would quickly collapse. The report further found that falling behind in their education timeline reduces students' future productivity and earning power. Most of the 1.9 trillion peso estimate is actually this lost productivity, which would be spread out for years and manifest itself in slower economic growth over the long term, essentially the working life of students who are affected this school year by the closures. The immediate cost, mainly lost wages from teachers, other school personnel, and parents, is about 300 billion pesos. Finally, the loss of health education during school closures has significant long-term effects beyond the pandemic, the study found. Results indicate that long-term mortality increases due to less effective education from face-to-face closure during January to June 2021 may be 49 times higher than the number of lives saved from COVID-19 in the short run, the report said. Government policymakers ought to critically revisit the school closure policy in light of these findings and seriously consider modifying the policy along the lines the ADB researchers recommend, noting that young children are the least susceptible to the COVID-19 infection and are less likely to be spreaders of the disease. The report suggested that opening classes to elementary students, those under the age of 15, while implementing strict safety measures, would reduce the human and financial costs of the closure policy by more than 2/3. For example, steps can be taken to reduce student contact by prohibiting assemblies, holding classes outdoors where possible, and careful scheduling of students' movements. The report further recommended taking a more targeted approach to school closures of any kind, only implementing them when necessary to manage pandemic hotspots, allowing areas with low incidence of COVID-19 cases to carry out safe face-to-face classes. The researchers also urged the government to take a more interactive, whole-of-government approach to policy planning in the context of school closures, following the World Health Organization Public Health and Social Measures Framework and involving the Department of Education, Department of Health, Department of Interior and Local Government, mayors, school principals, and parent representatives in setting policy for local areas. And that's the editorial for Thursday, January 14, 2021. For more news and information, get a copy of the Manila Times on print, subscribe to its digital edition, or log on to www.manilatimes.net. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, and listen to the voice of the Times.